Part of the daily number 467 where we learn to be a better gamer, and these glasses will not clean themselves ever. These glasses are always foggy or smudged or splotched or something with a negative, grody, dirty connotation to it. But I'll wear them because I just am lazy with my contacts today. That rant was unnecessary, and I just wanted you to know that. I'm so glad you were here to be part of that with me today. Hi, guys. We got the chance to see EmpireViolet's really cool, aggressive style work brilliantly in Game 1, have some trouble, I would even say, getting off the ground in Game 2. In this Game 3, we're going to see the counterattack aggression start to step in, start to be able to make some strides forward, but we're going to see some nice decision-making by Ganzi that's going to make me squeal like a dedicated fan at a Twilight movie opening or something like that. Something is equally fangirlish. I'm not fanboyish. I am fangirlish about this sort of play by Ganzi and the counterattack play by Violet. Anytime I see Ling slip in, I'm just like, oh my god! Ah! They're crying and weeping, and oh, it's just a big mess of a giant blubbering whale. So let's go ahead and analyze. I've already stepped a little bit far forward into this game. This is Game 3 in a recent best of 3 between Violet and Ganzi. And I'm delighted that they are going to be duking it out once again at the Red Bull Battlegrounds Tournamente. So Violet once again does this very fast Zergling speed. He gets the 2 queens, and he has seen, oh my goodness, a gas geyser here. So he will likely be anticipating some kind of, early on Hellions. Holy crap, lost the name there for a moment. I also want to point something out that's, I think, super duper important. Here's a nice trick, you guys. Alright, so let's just note the following. From the Violet cam, he does try to take the extractor. We do see the command center go down. There's the cancel on the extractor. The gas geyser goes down. I want to note that these gas geysers went down a little before 4 minutes. That's about as early as they can go down. But let's say you didn't get that drone in the base. All you had was this overlord. Always make sure that you can click on this refinery and just count how much gas has been mined. They mine 116 gas a minute. You might just more bluntly say it's like 100 a minute. It's going to get off pretty fast, but if you just get on there and you see, oh, he's mined like 100 gas. Oh, I guess he took it like a minute ago. You can identify builds really, really easily. And also, I mean, you can even do the more simple math of, oh, derp, he's mined almost 100 gas. What could he have done with 100 gas right now? Gee, I don't know, maybe build a frickin' factory. God. You have a really clear sense. What if you go in there and you see that 96 gas is the count? And you know it just got down. Wow, that's so great. He can't have done anything. He doesn't have any gas. It's really easy. Really great. Gas counting is super cool. This is also really good for you Terran players against Protosses. If you can do a scan and hit both of the refineries, you can see something like, oh, well, I guess he's mined 600 gas. And I see 4 sentries at the front, so he's only having 200 gas left. Gee. Guess if he has 3 stalkers, there's no way he can have a robo. Because he's having to get warp gate, blah, 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 calculations, derp, derp, derp. Cool. Maths. I love maths. I love counting and maths. So we are seeing a more standard play out of our good friend Ganzi. Going for the 3rd command center quite quickly. It's a very common play, as we can just take this 3rd command center and be king of Turtle Town. And once again, we see this interesting decision from Violet. He is going to respond to that Hellion aggression, not with some sort of turtly play, building these, evolution chambers and spine crawlers. No, he's going to come right out the gate and poop out some roaches. Be able to deal with this Hellion aggression head on. But what makes Violet good is that he is not just someone who builds to defend. He's someone who builds to defend and then swing back hard with a big, nice old counterattack. Now, I will happily note that we've only built 4 Hellions, so that way we can go right back to going Siege Tank Marine. The Siege Tank will be the hero of the hour. We got some speed Zerglings to try to push back the Hellions. We had 4. We ended up losing 2. Roach is now moving forward and just straight up Baneling bust. We don't have Lair. We're not going Roach speed. We're not going Baneling speed. We just have 2 Geysers down. But in almost every circumstance, once the attack literally begins, like right now the attack is beginning, not back here where he was rallying, but literally right now, glance up here to the production tab and you'll see tons of drones being produced. I mean, he's not economically battered apart by any means, but here he goes. Here's the push. You see the 2 Overlords. He busted down the front door. Goes straight for these workers, and look at that. Drones galore being made. Violet does this so much, even though this attack's doing really well, and sometimes it can be tempting to be like, man, I bet if I just got another round of Banings in there, I would win. But instead, a lot of droning, and since we have now bought ourselves a lot of time, once again, one of the best ways to exploit a lot of time is to go for gas-heavy units in the follow-up. Drones and gas-heavy things. And going for another expansion. Ooh, look at this expand. And we're getting a little bit faster of a layer in this circumstance because we actually did quite a good bit of battery in this position. It largely just has Marines and tanks. And with all this great bought time, we've spread our creep out, so suddenly our slow Banelings are good at dealing with pushes. How lovely. And Ganzi is just going to curl up with a nice cozy book and defend on 3 bases. Again, Ganzi much more about these straightforward, meticulous, well-thought-out builds. Going for the fast 1-1 upgrades. 2-2 gets delayed because obviously we were trying to avoid dying. Hey, that's a pretty cool follow-up. Mutalisk, because they're gas-heavy units. Good way to exploit tons of early aggression. Is those gas-heavy follow-ups. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit. This is a smart play from Ganzi. Anytime you can identify a delayed layer, you know that there's nothing that they can really do about drops. There's not going to be Hydras, Mutas, Corruptors, anything that's going to be good at dealing with medevacs, so you can feel free to drop somewhat comfortably. The Zerglings from Violet position for a counterattack. And actually, I want to come back and just see what is it that Violet has seen at this point in time. Let me even come back to 12:30, and we're literally just on the Violet cam, and this is around the point when we might have some vulnerability. We already got up to 73 drones. In all that time that we bought with that nice little counter, or that nice little attack at the front, we literally haven't even really seen much of anything. We've just seen that he has a 3rd base. So probabilistically, this should be a good play. In the first parts, I talked about how Lings can take an extra shot from tanks. Notice how many Lings we lost without that Carapace upgrade done. Nice simple little counterattack. Gets us a little bit more time bomb as we get up Mutalisks. Simple little play, and anytime this is happening, don't just let the units die, backing them up buys them a lot of time. But of course, oh no, there's not really going to be that many air units up. There's not really going to be that many Mutalisks up. This was guaranteed to do some damage. We ended up having to halt it finally, but now we're back and ready to be aggressive. Ready to be on the move. A lot more counterattacking planned in combination with the Mutalisks. And I will now bring up the sexiest move of all time. Here we go. Alright, it's sexy time, ladies and gents. It is now sexy time. So, we're in Ganzi's position. We're kind of turtled. We've got some tanks up here. We got some bunkers. Pretty cool placement. Got another tank there. Some turrets placed around. And we know that our opponent has Mutalisks. There's the Mutalisk right there floating around. Kind of hard to see in this angle, but there it is. Sexy time. Sexy time. I am now going to state the fundamental theory of drops in Terran versus Zerg. If I can see his Mutalisks are here, if I drop over there, he has to defend there with his Lings and Banelings. So that doesn't sound that complicated. It sounds obvious. But hey, Mutalisks are here. I know they're far away, so I will drop in an opposite location, so his ground unit has to go there. All this now leads us to conclude that the middle of the map is empty. So cool. It doesn't even matter if this drop does damage or not. We know the Lings and Banelings are there. So now we can move our whole freaking army to the center of the map and begin the attack and the push that will push Zerg back. Ever been one of those Terran players that doesn't know when the hell to push Zerg? You're looking for the attack timing. It's not a timing window, it's a positioning window. Mutilisks are occupied on that corner of the map. Distracted, his Lings and Banelings. Actually, distracted is the wrong word. You force those Lings Banelings to be off in that corner. The middle of the map now free, ready to be filled up with a big set of tanks and shit. Yes. So, here is the sexy, sexy move coming up from Ganzi. He both wants to do a drop to catch his opponent out of position, and he wants to make sure he doesn't run any risk of counterattacking. Look at the sexiest thing that you will ever see in your life. He did this drop, he killed off a lot of Lings, doesn't really see that many Lings, it was kind of a close battle. So, what are we going to see Ganzi do? He will take 16 Marines and 2 Medevacs and walk them up the counterattack path. Sure, mules are swinging in down here. But look at this, the counterattack gets shut down before it's even begun. Mutilisks in a little bit of a cautious position. But now we just literally walk all the way up to here. So freaking beautiful. Oh my god, this makes me just freak out. Oh my god, this just tickles my funny bone. Such a slick move. So now we see Ganzi, just quite simply, get ready to do the attack. He has done some repositioning here. He has a SCV ready to expand. He's seen the Mutalisk kind of in this down general area, has a lot of turrets to be able to deal with it. Here comes the big drop. And if these can force Lings to be in one location, then that's going to be great. Now, one thing that I'll note is that this is not, this is a big drop. Bigger drops will almost always force a lot of Lings to come along, because generally you won't have that many Mutalisks, especially not in the modern way that Zerg vs. Terrans played. It's a lot more infestor based. Small drops work if you know where the Mutalisk position is, but if you don't know where the Muta position is, you can end up with some big drops that are big investments that will almost guarantee this sort of stuff to happen. So wonderful. Now that we've identified Mutalisks here, we are doing a drop up here. It really stretches this Ling Baneling set thin. Hey, look at Lings, Banelings in the middle. Now I can fast push. I don't need a siege up. I know where the Lings and Banelings are. I'm walking my tanks. Ever been really scared of running your tanks into unsiege? Or running in your tanks unsiege and losing a lot of Marines? Well, here we have no fear. We can move really far aggressively. So slick. Really elegant solution. In the meantime, Violet will indeed go for the counterattack. And this is what makes Violet Violet. He's getting to do this sort of play. And almost ends up just pulling a nice big lead right here. I mean, Violet was able to defend all of this, and now it looks like Violet slowly just keeping everything pulled back. Going to the natural, trying to pick off the SCVs there. Has to be very careful that he doesn't lose too many of his Mutilisks, but overcommits a slight bit. But hey, this is all in the theme of this big aggression. Trying to get the workers killed count as high as possible. I think that this maybe could have been the one blunder that cost the game. But Violet is also good at doing the counter analysis. If I see Marines here, and I saw Marines here, then I know that the center is going to be much weaker. So a lot of these Mutalisks are dying, but we did manage to chew through a big chunk of units in the middle. And this is where Violet's style starts to become very, very difficult to deal with. So let's do it from both players' point of view. From Ganzi's point of view, I identified where the Mutalisks are. I will now drop somewhere else. forcing Lings to be elsewhere to help reinforce my push. You will see this happen 1,000,001 times, and if every time you see Mutilisks, you think of a place you can drop, now you're playing TVZ, my friend. Yeah. Alright, let's analyze this from Violet's point of view. We have this sort of wonky position where we don't really have a good stranglehold over any position on the map. But all we want to do is try to snip our opponent into chunks. If we can kind of snip a chunk here, and then he's waiting to get enough units to reinforce, we have another chunk here. I want to have him as many chunks as possible. And then we can select whichever one is the smallest and go crush that. Here are the Ling Banelings, just doing an incredible job, but Terran buying a lot of time. Now here is the one thing that I think can be a little bit of the trouble with doing this sort of style. We have snipped a lot of our Terran player into different chunks. He has this reinforcement chunk at the front. A lot of these units were back here to defend. He also has this army that's up in mid. The army in mid is the smaller one. Anytime you have an aggressive counterattack focused style, you're snipping the army into these little segments, and you have to be able to just check and identify. Because Ganzi very cleverly just said, screw it, this is going to die, I may as well reinforce it as much as possible. And then, when Violet decided to go for this counterattack, he not only wasn't able to pierce through here, but also wasn't able to pick off this big push that's in front and mid. And because Ling Baneling is kind of the stuff of big push busting, because Violet was running low on it, his gas has gotten ridiculously high as he hasn't been able to replenish Mutilisks really comfortably at any point in time. And then from here on out, this is sort of like the slow drag, the uncomfortable spot to be in. And I think Ganzi did like a really, really cool decision by... Oh, that totally sucks. By just saying, yeah, I abandon this. I'm going to defend my frickin' main and do a second follow-up push that's stronger. And then, because Violet never really killed this off, because he was too busy doing the counterattacks, Ganzi was able to take the win. Now, the one thing that's interesting to me about the current status of Violet as a player is that he has gotten, like, just superb at always identifying the right place to hit. So that's what I think a lot of people were excited to see when he was in the Spring Arena, just performing brilliantly with a lot of counterattacks. It's what people are excited about for the upcoming Red Bull Battlegrounds tournament, because he has won, right now, like 3-4 tournaments in a row, and is going for another one in a row. Except this time, the first place prize is the biggest of all. So I'm hoping that, at the very least, we'll get to see Violet play some crazy games in Group A, but if not, it would definitely be that he gets abated by just these really carefully repositioned things with players who can identify, well, these units are kind of islanded out in the center, gonna let them die. Because this went a little bit longer, I'm just gonna take a few questions, just like 2. I have received no questions yet. F5. F5. You know what? I'll take this one. This has nothing to do with today's daily, but I'll answer it. Day 9, any tips of keeping your head in the game after losing a lot of games? There are, I think, two kinds of there's two kinds of problems that players will have when they're going on losing streaks. One is that they'll be demotivated and they won't want to play another game. And the other one is when you get really frustrated and you're just like, damn it, and you hit the find match button and you're just like, and you get into the next game and you just can't focus. The second one I have a lot more experience with because I generally don't get demotivated and think, I don't want to play. I always want to play, right? So in those circumstances, going on a run is one of the greatest things ever. You wear yourself out, back down to a more calm state of mind. You just don't have the energy to be that pissed off. Go on a long run, go on an exercise, and keep playing. Another one that's really great is to drink a lot of ice water or just to stick your head in the freezer to physically cool your head off. If your head is actually physically colder, you'll feel a little bit more calm. You'll be able to think through things a little bit more clearly. If your head is like really hot from being like in a rage, or if you're in a hot room, like a room with floodlights or something, it's quite difficult to maintain a sort of even kilter. So literally those two physical activities are really, really, really useful to do. For me, if I'm feeling demotivated, like I've been losing a lot and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this, I set strict boundaries of how much I will play. I'll say things like, I am going to play 6 games today, period. And at this time, I'm going to play 6. Every Tuesday, I play 6 games. And every Wednesday, I play 2. And every Thursday, I play 10. Because I have the time for that. And if I'm on a loss streak, I know that there's an end in sight. And the best way to build resistance, so that's the way to deal with it in the right now, to build resistance over time, always make yourself rewatch all the games you lose later. Not now when you're in the moment of frustration and don't want to play anymore. Watch them later. Get up the next day and watch them the next day, like with a friend or something like that. Because you'll start to do things where you'll think in your head, oh, that's such bullshit, that guy, he had like so many units, is so stupid, that race is so broken. And then you'll go look the next day when you're calm and you'll go, oh, he was actually all in with that attack. If I had held it off, I could have won. Actually, maybe I still could have won that game. Whoops. And you'll start to realize that this frustration has built the enemy into this huge unstoppable force, when in reality he sucks and you're better than he is. And then you start to have a lot more confidence in your own play in the subsequent games. So I'll take one more player. Let's see here. One more question from Troll Dog. Day 9, I'm a Zerg player and I have a hard time straight engaging a Terran player with siege tanks and marines. What should I do? The big thing is that you just you'll see a lot of Zerg players engage sieged tanks with a lot of marines there, but all Zerg players are trying to avoid it all game long. The idea is, pound for pound, if you give me 10,000 resources and you get 10,000 resources and we each build an army of marine tank versus baneling muta, the marine tank should pretty much win like always. It just deals too much damage and the tanks pick off the banelings. Like always. Really should. However, with tanks having to attach themselves to the ground, you end up having a lot of difficulty with positioning as Terran. There's no reason the Zerg has to engage the siege tanks, so you'll see the Zerg pick away at the main. If a tank gets out of position, they'll gobble it up with a Mutalisk. So try to be working around the edges of it all, just nibbling, and only when you look at it and think, oh, dude, I so got that, only then should you really be charging in. Zerglings are really great at absorbing a lot of tank blows if you're going Ling Muta Baneling. And yeah, just feel free to do some really big counterattacks. With Ling Infester, you can engage it a little bit better, because you can lob the infested Terrans out, and then those eggs will take the big brunt of the damage of the siege tank fire, and then you can sweep in with a lot of Lings from all sides. And that generally works out quite well, but even then, you're more comfortable just delaying until you can get up a lot of that big hive tech, the Ultralisks, and that sort of thing, to be able to bust those lines. But just try to avoid engaging it for as long as possible and do anything else but engage it. And just try to make sure, if he ever unsieges, that's when you go, oh, mistake time, and you crush it. You just kind of want him to siege up in a place and make him feel like, oh, I can't move, and then you'll win. Tomorrow we're going to review Protoss players from the Red Bull Battlegrounds. And then on Thursday I get on a plane to go to the Red Bull Battlegrounds. So I hope that you tune into and watch and attend the Red Bull Battlegrounds. It'll be streamed live on this channel. And if you're on this channel, twitch.tv/day9tv, underneath you'll see all the links to the event if you want to come and hang out and high five. Always high fiving. Not one of those hard high fives where you try to like prove how tough you are by hurting the other person. Just like a enthusiastic high five. You'll get one from me if you attend. I'm done. Bye! And Day 9 disappears into a whir of motion.